Tonight on the Black Channel, bullets are flying, people are dying, but there's a problem that's just as big: getting it wrong. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, the everlasting superfortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media, and this is the Black Channel, and I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the voice of Black America, the Black Authority, broadcasting to you live from the only historically black college university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on evenings like this is why you have to have me as Black America's anchorman, cutting past all the nonsense and the idiocy and hours of crises. I started it last night by keeping us all focused on what is truly important, and I will continue to do so here tonight by making sure that you have the news and analysis that you'll receive absolutely nowhere else. 720 degrees, 10 tons, crushing it all the way down. And what I want to do is first I want to start here. Before I do anything else, I'm sure you're all aware of it now, if you have not been living under a rock for the last 24 hours here or so, there was an assassination attempt on the life of former President Donald Trump. The suspect was killed on the spot. Security breach of an epic, massive level. Totally inexcusable. But that essentially is what occurred. The bullet, there are photographs out there showing it whizzing by him. The bullet missed him by inches, if that many. Well, actually, centimeters from actually just smashing through his head. It clipped his ear, but a few more centimeters and it just would have been in his head. He was gesticulating at the time. He was gesticulating around. He was moving around right when the gunman shot. He moved his head. If he had not, most likely he would be at least seriously injured and at most deceased. There are many things I could show you or tell you or whatnot, but there's a clip from CNN. It's about 10 minutes long. I think it is well worth watching in order to put all of this in its proper context physically. I think it's important to do that, and that's where I want to start. They were speaking to Republican Representative Corey Mills. He's former military, former sniper. And for those of you who don't know, you've seen the video and whatnot, I think he does an excellent job of explaining exactly how the events unfolded and why it is that this was a very, very critical, important thing that could have happened, very, very bad thing that could have occurred there, and giving the details of exactly what you're looking at and what we saw happen. So if you want to have a very good education, I probably won't play the whole thing. I want to play enough of it so that you all understand physically what occurred.
When we go up as a counter sniper, we put together what we call range fans for our range card. We usually keep it right next to us. It's an overlay of the area, usually a satellite image, and it has our 100-yard line, our 200-yard line, our 300-yard line, and we identify the buildings and the areas for potential threat in those so that when you do identify a threat, you don't have to actually, what they call milling out, which is to determine the distance of that actual target. You have it within your range fan. You can quickly glance down and say, roughly 200, and you can dial your elevation, look at your windage, make your call, and then fire your shot. Look, at 230 yards, which is what this is being estimated by, we have to bear in mind something. An AR-15 or any rifle of that matter has what they call minutes of angle, which means what the capability of the rifle is. A standard rifle, which is a basic rifle's capabilities, is 1 MOA, which means for every 100 yards is 1-inch grouping capabilities. You're talking about that at 230 yards, the average shooter could actually point at a target, fire 5 to 6 rounds, and somewhere within that group would be about a 2.3-inch grouping at 230 yards. The average life-size man target is a 20 by 40, 20 shoulder to shoulder, 40 waist to head. President Trump obviously is a much larger guy. He's a much taller guy. So it is by miracle and divine intervention that he is not killed today.
So as you can see, this guy knows his stuff. He's going through all the details of exactly what it would take. And he's like, by the way, with an average person, which was the real thing he wanted to get to, the average person. So, yeah, he's saying at that distance, usually it'll be a grouping. He's talking about if you fired 5 shots, how close together would they be? And you're talking about inches. You're talking about inches.
And so there was a failure in the breach of security. I will identify that immediately. I will tell you that we always take the high ground for your overwatch positions. You always look at what the ability is to see the crowd so that you can mitigate threats at an elevated position. And one of the areas why you look at high angle fire shooting is also the direction and trajectory of the bullet itself. It's not like shooting at a flat trajectory where you have over penetration and can get other individuals. This is going to eventually just hit into the ground. So the oversight on this is that you're talking about 230 yards, which is nothing for a shot, adjacent to the stage.
Now, for those of you here, I'll go ahead and blow this up a little bit on your screen so you can see it if you had not seen it before there. This is showing you the area yesterday and showing you where the president was versus where the gunman was. So you can see up here in the upper right corner where the location the suspected gunman was and the location of where he was shooting at. So he was shooting from the side. And yeah, had you right where he wanted you. Had you right where he wanted you. So this guy apparently wasn't a professional. He was only 20 years old. So it's not like, I don't think he was in the military or anything like that. He was 20 years old. I think he got his dad's gun. So don't worry, we're going to get into that also.
Of the president. So the oversight on this is that you're talking about 230 yards, which is nothing for a shot, adjacent to the stage of the president. And there was no one on that building. No one, even if you're not going to put anyone on the building, standing next to the building to ensure there's no access to the building. So I'm glad that the speaker is going to do an investigation on this because I think that it's warranted. I think that I applaud, again, what the Secret Service detail had done, what the Counter Sniper CS team has done. But I will tell you, this is a massive security breach, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and we can show on the screen, too. So this is first of all, we're looking at a map here, or we were looking at a map. And if we could bring up, there's imagery of the shooter, deceased shooter, on the top of a rooftop, just to kind of give people some context of what we're looking for here. But to just sort of, Congressman,
So I think you all get the idea here of exactly what was going on there. And he talks about this a little bit later when he was talking with the panel, when they have a panel of people up there, actually. And he was telling them about, by the way, he could take any of them within a day, and any of them within a short amount of time to be able to show them. By the way, from that distance, it sounds like a long distance, but in reality, it's actually not. In reality, it's actually not. So I thought those were very good details to have. By the way, YouTube, fair use.
Dig in on this. There were also reports, and we have some information coming into CNN this morning, that somebody was seen going roof to roof. Mm-hmm. There was an eyewitness that talked to the BBC about trying to warn people about this. I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around. I mean, it sounds to me like you're saying this was an incredibly significant
This is a very significant security breach. And this is why it's so important, not only to ensure that presidential candidates and others had the necessary resources on their details and not to try and save money by trying to cut or deny resource and details. Look, you're talking about even, Kennedy himself, who's running right now, has denied his own detail. I mean, he was supposed to get a security detail as a presidential nominee or, for an independent party, but he didn't even get an actual, and you're talking about a guy who lost his dad and his uncle. So, it is serious when you talk about security breaches and you talk about the apparatuses that.
So you hear what he just said there about RFK Jr., that, by the way, he doesn't have adequate protection and he lost a father and an uncle. And Yeah, they kind of just hanging out there.
Are being utilized. And so I would just stress the fact that not only do I see this as a massive security breach, but also we have to play into a part of, you have to work with your local law enforcement departments, you have to work in with other agencies and coordinate to ensure that at a minimum, I would have said, you have a local law enforcement officer at that location where that building is to ensure that no one can gain access to a higher ground location. That in itself could have prevented this actual shooting.
Congressman, you also said.
Now, we don't have details on why exactly that roof in particular was, not allowed for anybody to be on there or whatever. Not really sure why that's occurred yet. Not yet, but we'll see.
That you spoke with Eric Trump last night. Can you tell us a little bit about how the family is coping and what else you spoke about?
Well, the fact that the gentleman that's just to the right in the picture there right now, the president to try and get him was actually on his detail whenever he was on Eric's, and said that she's absolutely phenomenal, as well as for the fact that the gentleman that's just to the right in the picture.
I want you to keep that in mind. He's talking about Trump's detail and that the woman there was folks who would usually serve on Trump's son's detail, but they were guarding Trump. There's a reason why I'm playing this. I want you all to remember this.
The president to try and get him was actually on his detail whenever he was on Eric's, and said that she's absolutely phenomenal, as well as he felt very strongly, one, about the excellent job that the Secret Service has done. One of the females that was actually corralling around the president to try and get him was actually on his detail whenever he was on Eric's, and said that she's absolutely phenomenal, as well as for the fact that the gentleman that's just to the right in the picture there right now, Eric said these are some of the most loyal, most dedicated, most committed individuals that you'll ever find. And, he is continue to provide accolades, and even to the CS teams, the counter sniper teams, to say these are the guys who are the best of the best. I've shot with them. I've seen what they do, whether it be at Quantico, whether it be at Meade, wherever be the case. But his concern is that he definitely said, Corey, if that was you or I, this would have been a whole different story.
So remember that part about the woman. We'll come back to it, but remember that part about the woman here on the screen, because she's the one they're talking about. Remember that. It'll be relevant.
In our earlier segment, this is a time that is not about partisanship right now. This is not a Democrat, Republican. This is a very pivotal point.
I'm going to open up to questions from the panel here in just a second, but I also do want to ask you, you are a sniper yourself. You have been a sniper yourself. How good was this guy as a shot?
He wasn't, and that was the thing that saved the president.
Okay. So GOP lawmaker Mills, and he's letting you know he was military. He was a sniper. For those of you who don't know, in the military, usually everybody, I think, if I remember the steps, particularly in the Army, there's marksman, sharpshooter, specialist, sniper. And so everybody, I think, has to qualify to be a marksman. But after that, what he's saying is that, by the way, how good with this guy? He's like, he wasn't. And that's the only reason that the target's not dead, because the guy wasn't really very good at what he did. He was not, military trained and being in a specialist level or something. That's the only thing that saved you.
How good was this guy as a shot?
He wasn't, and that was the thing that saved the president. The bottom line is that I can tell you with absolute certainty, if you put me at 200 yards, we were trained that anything within 300 yards and in, you would only do what they call hollow T's, which is here and here. That is your only mark in which you're actually aiming and shooting for. Anything beyond that, you basically do a center mass shot.
By the way, I want you all to pay attention to this, because a lot of us talk about the military. You talk about the Panthers and what they knew and things like that, and studying military tactics. A bunch of you are completely unaware of how they operate, especially at the sniper level. So you'll talk about Dr. King and things like that, and not really even aware of the mechanics of how snipers operate, or methods and protocol and procedures that they use. And he's telling you exactly what it is they would use. And he's like, by the way, if we're at this range, this is how I do it. We wouldn't even have to really dial it in, and only a little bit further out. Okay, then maybe we can start dialing it in. So he's letting you know at 200 yards, it's like, man, really don't even have to try that hard. But what he's about to do is explain to you the difference between hitting between the head, which is what the guy was aiming for. He was aiming for Trump's head, and he's explaining the circumstances under which they would do that, versus center mass. And that's why he's saying this guy wasn't actually good. If he had actually had some more training, he would have gotten the target for certain.
the president. The bottom line is that I can tell you with absolute certainty, if you put me at 200 yards, we were trained that anything within 300 yards and in, you would only do what they call hollow tees, which is here and here. That is your only mark in which you're actually aiming and shooting for. Anything beyond that, you basically do a center mass shot. When you're talking 230 yards, I will tell you that I can look on target, get on target, and then close my eyes and pull the trigger and still hit a man-sized target silhouette all day long.
Now, granted, he's a sniper, so once you get to that expert level, that's one thing. But what he's saying is that, by the way, at his level, he's like 200 yards. I can hit him with my eye. I can see him, line myself up, and hit him with my eyes closed. So those of you who are in the military who are not, inept or anything like that, you've had practice at it, and they train you all in the military to do the same thing, at least shooting targets that are hundreds of yards out. And if you qualify, then maybe you can move up and get your specialist rankings or whatever. But by the way, for those of you who didn't know that this is how it works, and those are the standards that they use, this is a brief education in how tactics work.
130 yards, I will tell you that I can look on target, get on target, and then close my eyes and pull the trigger and still hit a man-sized target silhouette all day long.
By the way, one more thing. Did you notice, just a brief aside, notice that he goes through the motions here, showing you that, by the way, yeah, he's very familiar with that. Take a look at how he goes. He's not even afraid to go through the motions of it. He's literally sitting there reliving it.
I can look on target, get on target, and then close my eyes and pull the trigger and still hit a man-sized target silhouette all day long.
Yeah, so that's what you were saying before. One second. That's what you.
While you got the black kids out here and whatnot, folks talking about let them twerk and this, that, and the other. By the way, these white folk, when they take their kids, and I'm from Louisiana, I see this every day. If you want to know what that's for, they take them into the woods at 3 and 4 in the morning. They take them, quote, hunting. They train them with guns. They train them with handguns. They train them with rifles. They train them with bows and arrows. They train them with crossbows. They train them with various hunting knives. So I'm just showing you, by the way, your kids is ready to express themselves and wear skinny jeans and throw a punch and can't even hurt anybody. And this guy's like, by the way, I could knock off your whole family with my eyes closed all day long. Just thought I would point that out while you're walking around Lenox Mall and thinking it's a game. By the way, just thought I would give a brief reminder.
Yeah, so that's what you were saying before. One second. That's what you were saying before when you said if it was you shooting or Eric Trump shooting, that this
or anyone who had true experience.
By the way, he's talking about Trump's son, Eric. So you got a military sniper who goes shooting, and he's been training with Trump's son. So make of that what you will. While Hunter Biden is hitting the crack pipe, Eric Trump is hitting the gun range.
Actually experienced, that's what would have happened.
Sorry, Elliot, go ahead. It's just you're a sharpshooter. Are we holding? You see what I'm getting at? It's the
average shooter.
Could have been able to do that. Okay.
I can put anyone on this panel onto an actual range.
Right.
Dial in exactly where it needs to be, and in some cases, not even dial in the elevation. Just tell you, go ahead and see the crosshairs and aim at your target.
Right.
And I will tell you 9 out of 10 times you're going to hit that target.
Right.
Okay. He's saying, by the way, I can take any of y'all with me, and let me take you to the range, and I'll show you how to get that done.
Terrifying.
I think, having done advance as well, there's such a relationship between the advance team and the Secret Service in figuring out where can the candidate be, where is the counter assault team going to be, where's the
stage going to be,
exactly,
where's the tight
all
shot
of those things. And part of what I have found surprising, I'm not criticizing anyone until we know the facts, but it was surprising to me when we see the map that this building, I guess, was outside of the perimeter and somehow maybe not
that's the
accounted
issue. 300
for.
yards is not outside the perimeter when they have a permissible and visible shooting platform. The thing for me is that everyone, I hear this continually utilized, well, it's outside of the platform or perimeter or shooter. Who determines the distance on the perimeter? Your security advance team does. So when you lay that out, if that was a private business, and I believe I saw earlier it was AGR or something like this, correct? You would actually have your law enforcement, your advance team go talk to the CEO there and say, hey, listen, We are obviously having a rally. We don't want it to disrupt your business. We want to make sure that you guys have the ability to come in and out of the parking lot so it doesn't disrupt things. But could we actually put someone on your rooftop to be able to provide additional oversight? I've never seen where we've been denied that opportunity. And even if they did, you would at minimum have at least said, well, can we at least make sure that any of the areas which is permissible to get to the rooftop, that we can place a security guy there or we can place a law enforcement officer there?
And one thing I want to show our viewers, if we could put up the Doug Mills photograph, please, to just kind of underscore what the congressman has talked.
For those of you who have not seen this particular photograph, this brings a lot into perspective.
Talking about here, that is a picture of a bullet, right? You can see it circled.
And by the way, I like how this congressman here, former sniper, is going to explain to you exactly what you're looking at, because you think you know what you're looking at on the screen, but you really don't. You all are going to get the insight and analysis you'll receive nowhere else. So I'm glad he goes into detail about this. What
the congressman has talking about here, that is a picture of a bullet. Right, you can see it circled there. You know, and I mean, Congressman, I welcome your comments on this as you have been discussing kind of just how close this call was.
This is what we call the vapor trail, and what you find is in days of higher humidity, you actually see this more clearly. This is the benefits of why when a sniper and their spotter will lay down in a prone position and overlap one another. It's so that while the recoil is absorbed by the shooter themselves, the spotter can actually watch the vapor trail of where the bullet's going so that if it didn't impact target, they can actually call for the follow-up corrections. So what you're seeing there is a vapor trail that's coming off of the actual bullet. Now the bullet is beyond the actual area of the circle that they're looking at right now. That is obviously the trailing area. But the point is that you see that literally, as I stated earlier, milliseconds and millimeters matter. And the president is exceptionally blessed and fortunate, and thank God he had God's hand to protect him at this moment. But this is a huge security breach where I love our law enforcement officers. I love our federal law enforcement officers. But this has to go beyond just their internal investigation. This needs to be a congressional oversight investigation. This needs to be ensuring that everyone in the American populace can say, I am confident with the findings of this. They don't feel that it's a quoted inside job. They don't feel like this is something that was just other than a security breach or a security flaw.
So you notice in reality there, that's not even actually the bullet. That's just the vapor trail. The bullet would actually be somewhere up here. But that's just the vapor trail of the bullet. That's not even it. The bullet's somewhere up here. So, yeah. Talk about your close calls. Talk about your close calls. I'm going to get into some of the silliness in particular about things being fake and staged, because that's the scariest part about all of this, is that if you are not able to solidify reality from fiction, that you live with a cell phone glued in front of your face for so many hours, and you watch movies online so much and reality TV shows so much that you are so distanced from the real physical world that you can't distinguish what is actually real from what's fake. You're useless to us. Let me be very, very clear about that. We're going to talk about Amanda Seales tonight. Don't worry. 720 degrees. We're going to get to it. But let me be very, very clear. You're useless to us. If you're a person who cannot distinguish obvious fact from obvious fiction, you're not a person with an alternative view or a person with an alternative opinion. We live in a real physical world of real physical facts, and if you can't tell a real physical thing when you see it, you're useless to us. You're worthless. Because you're such an idiot and a coward that everything's fake to you until it finally knocks your head off. And then guess what? Hey, stupid. Everybody around you is going to say that what just happened to you is fake. That's the problem with dealing with people who can't distinguish fact from fiction, and everything is entertainment to them because their only interaction with the world is through a computer screen or a cell phone screen. Everything's fake to them unless they experience it themselves, and then when if they do experience it, everybody around them thinks it's fake too. It becomes a disease. . I would like to tell you all here that folks minded their manners, but they did not. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over to something a little bit different here. We're going to switch over to something a little bit different because I want us to go ahead and go over to the white supremacist media. Yes, we're going to go ahead and have a little bit of a check-in with them. First and foremost, we're going to go and take a look at Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly, who Donald Trump, as you all heard me talk about before here, Trump still disses her. Megyn Kelly had a few choice words. And, of course, kind of goes in a direction that you could probably predict. So she's going to talk about Joe Biden. And she's going to say that Joe Biden, all this demonizing Trump was created an environment where folk would want to kill Trump. Okay, well, she has an opinion on that. But listen carefully.
I would be remiss in my duty if I did not point out that he just on July 8th said to a group of Democrats whom he was trying to shore up about his mental acuity, quote, "We're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye." The left, I mean, the headlines in the New York Times, Rich, when Sarah Palin had what looked like a gun sight on certain districts prior to Gabby Giffords being shot, led to litigation that went on for years about whether she had been the subject of what she called a blood libel. And now you've got the sitting president who's been so loose with his language. He called Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist, despite the fact that there was zero evidence for that and none of it was borne out in that trial.
Huh? Now, where in the hell did that come from? What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with Donald Trump? Okay, she went from talking about Donald Trump, she went from defending Donald Trump to defending Kyle Rittenhouse. So if you were wondering if that's the case or not, if you were wondering whether or not that was an issue there, man, okay, just all right. There's all you need to see right there. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? We're just sitting here watching her, and then all of a sudden she's defending Kyle Rittenhouse and white supremacists. All of a sudden it's so Megyn Kelly's showing you that she has not changed her stripes. Although she probably should have. She probably should have. Don't worry, that one will come back to bite you, Megyn. You're desperate to hold on to what little relevance and income you got left. But by the way, I got a feeling that one's going to come back to bite you. Got a feeling it's going to come back to bite you. All right. Next, I want to go over here and go to America's favorite bedwench, Candace Owens. Yes, Candace Owens wanted to go ahead and weigh in. Candace could have just stayed quiet, but of course that would just be too damn easy. So let me go ahead and start here first, because she talks about the alleged shooter.
Thomas Matthew Crooks.
Can't even really say the alleged shooter. The FBI and everybody's saying that that's him. So I want you to hear this. And by the way, fair use. Listen to what she has to say here. It's amazing some of the flip-flops and spinning turns that some of these people will do.
I guess appropriate in this scenario. And of course, the first thing that people are saying is that he looks like a soy boy. And you know what?
She's talking about the shooter now. She's saying that people are saying that the shooter looks like a soy boy.
Full failure in intelligence. I refuse to believe that. I'm not going to be deluded by anybody's press conference. I'm not going to be deluded by the insistence from all of these media mockingbirds that all of this happened because it was just a remarkable failure in intelligence, is what they always tell us. No, I don't believe that, because I know better. I know the kind of evil that we are fighting, and we're going to get to all parts of that. So let's first jump into everything we know about the shooter. The shooter has been identified, again, as an individual named Thomas Matthew Crooks. Last name, I guess, appropriate in this scenario. And of course, the first thing that people are saying is that he looks like a soy boy. And you know what? I'm sort of recognizing this as a theme. Why do
Okay, in the chat room, there's a bunch of folks saying soy boy, what does that mean? This really started with the alt-right. Guys like the Quartering. This really started with them. But when they say soy boy, it's basically referring to when you were raised or when you were a baby or an infant or a toddler, that you were fed soy milk as opposed to, natural milk, and that's effeminized you and you're kind of recessive. So when they say soy boy, that's what they're referencing. These are code words, by the way. Everybody got code words. They're all on code about. So when you hear soy boy, what they mean is that they're making a reference that you're soft, you're effeminate, you were raised on soy milk as opposed to natural milk. So yeah, because there's estrogen in soy, and even that people need to understand exactly what that means. But so basically, if you're on soy, you're soft, you're effeminate. You've been raised on estrogen. So now you understand what she means when she says that. If this is new jargon to you all, just understand. Yeah, they don't go around explaining their jargon to you. They use it with themselves and they know what it means, but they don't go around explaining it to you. Yeah, they just use it against you.
failure and intelligence is what they always tell us? No, I don't believe that, because I know better. I know the kind of evil that we are fighting, and we're going to get to all parts of that. So let's first jump into everything we know about the shooter. The shooter has been identified, again, as an individual named Thomas Matthew Crooks. Last name, I guess, appropriate in this scenario. And of course, the first thing that people are saying is that he looks like a soy boy. And you know what? I'm sort of recognizing this as a theme. Why do all of these shooters look alike? They have the same look in their eye. Do you know what I'm talking about? They all.
Yeah, they're white. Candace, there's a freeze frame for you all right there, by the way. There's a freeze frame for you. So, yeah. But in any case, by the way, she's like, yeah, there's something, similar about them. Like, yeah, like they're white, Like isn't that the observation she would normally make, by the way? Isn't that the one she would normally make? I noticed something is the same about them all, because you see, if we were talking about alleged so-called black on black crime, what? Why, Candace would immediately let you all know about the racial component. If we were talking about so-called black on black crime, well, that would be the thing that she would say. I noticed the same thing. Well, let's see what she says now.
The theme. Why do all of these shooters look alike? They have the same look in their eye. Do you know what I'm talking about? They all look like the would-be shooter in all of these situations. And I'm talking about in the past, school shooting situations. They all have a certain look. So can we throw up a photo of, here's Thomas Matthew Crooks. Okay, this looks like a school picture of some description, and I swear I've seen this person over and over again in other school shooting scenarios. I'm thinking mainly, by the way, of a Connecticut shooting situation, because that's where I'm from. And they just all have a similar look in their eyes.
They sure do.
My viewpoint. Now, guys, you're not going to believe this. Here's what they're trying to actually sell to us. This is really what they're going with, because, of course, they need to fashion this so it doesn't look like leftist violence. They're saying,
okay, so she's just going to whiz by that. She's naming all these white shooters and isn't pointing out, by the way, there's a similarity between them. She doesn't mention that they're white. So if these were black folks, she would immediately sit there and tell you, by the way, black people in black on black crime, black, BLM, black, BLM, black, BLM, black, And now all of a sudden, what in the world? She sees this, and all of a sudden I see a similarity, but I can't quite. She's literally telling you I can't quite place my finger on it. Not really sure what the similarity is. Can't quite finger what it is. Not really sure what that is. Not really certain. Not really certain. Not really certain. Well, boy, isn't that amazing? So now all of a sudden, all these people have the same thing in common. They're white. They're young white males. That's the similarity they all have, is young white males. And it's not to demonize them for being white. Let's take a look at American culture in white society. Since they always want to try to talk about that with us, shouldn't we use this as an opportunity to examine that? And then Candace can explain to us why she married it. But shouldn't we be examining what's going on with the white males? Not to demonize anyone, but shouldn't we have an honest analysis of what's going on with these white males? So she's sitting here with a phenomenon that is all white males and then tells you, I see a similarity, but let me get my Ray Charles sunglasses. I can't see nothing. Tap, tap, tap. Oh, my walking stick. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, I can't see anything. I mean, there's just something similar about them all. I just can't quite finger it. Can't quite finger it. So this is Candace Owens, taking coonery and buffoonery to a whole new level. By the way, Ben Shapiro, everyone's favorite Jewish white supremacist, also had a few things he wanted to say here as well. Just thought I would go ahead and show that one to you.
Yeah, we have seen an increase in political violence in this country over the course of the last 5 years, truly touching off with the riots of 2020. There were obviously riots in 2014 that were winked and nodded at by federal law enforcement.
That's a little bit more than 5 years, wouldn't you say there, Benny boy?
20. There were obviously riots in 2014 that were winked and nodded at by federal law enforcement. 2020 was the culmination of that. We saw political violence at the congressional baseball shooting. We've seen political violence in the attempted assassination of Brett Kavanaugh. This is a dark era. We are re-entering an era in which political assassination is considered part of the normal life of the nation. If what happened yesterday.
Okay, he mentions 2020 and doesn't mention January 6th.
What?
Yeah, and Catherine, you're right. Speaking of soy boys, yeah, Ben Soy Shapiro, by the way, speaking of soy boys, Ben Soy Piro. But by the way, he mentions 2020. What happened then? By the way, how are you going to mention that era, that time frame in political violence? Hello, January 6th? By the way, and I'm not saying what you think I'm saying, by the way. I'm just saying, if you're going to mention the time frame of 2020, by the way, did anything else happen around 2020? Did anything else happen around 2020? You know, like the end of anything happen anywhere around there? You know, any political violence happened somewhere in the vicinity of 2020? I'm talking about very close vicinity of 2020. Anything else happen, Benny boy? You know, it's something that would make international headline news. You know, any coups or anything? Any white supremacists marching on the Capitol building? Something like that. Would that qualify, Benny boy? No, because Ben Shapiro's running around telling people that wasn't a riot, that wasn't an insurrection. He's been saying that the whole time. No, that was a peaceful protest. He's still saying that. That was a peaceful protest. Yes, I mean, he looks like one of the suspects. He sure as hell does. Although if he had a gun in his hands, the recoil would throw his little sorry ass clean across the room like a rocket. So it's just, wouldn't work for him. So yeah, him, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, they're all on code with the selective amnesia, but taking shots at us. They can't just take shots at Biden. They want to sit up here and say, okay, we always got to connect Biden. If we're going to diss somebody, we got to connect black folk. We're not going to sit up here and just bang on white people. We got to bang on black folk. We got to bang on them. But there's a lesson to be learned in here, because now we come to the next part. Because these folks are not done. These folks are not done, and there's a lesson for people to keep in mind here. Now, I'm going to start with Candace Owens. I'm going to start with her. This is going to be, I need to play an extended piece of this because I want you to hear everything she has to say. And strap in, boys and girls, because she's taking you for the ride.
That we get, something happens to a kid, I very much want there to be women there. When we are talking about guarding the life of President Donald J. Trump, the fact that there were so many women there is just unbelievable. And I'm going to show you, by the way.
Auntie, chill.
Oh, did you think you was going to miss catching that fade? And by the way, this is something that has been a decade in the making, people. What I'm about to tell you next, this has been a decade for me to get to this, but it was well worth the wait.
I want male pilots. I want male security guards of the United States. We need men. Can we acknowledge reality? Are we allowed to acknowledge gender and sex and the natural biological proclivities of men versus women? Are we allowed to do that? Because guess what? I don't care whether we're allowed to do it. I've been doing it the entire time. I want male pilots. I want male security guards. I want men back, okay? Men back doing male tasks that they are naturally inclined to do because of their body composition, because of the testosterone that is coursing through their veins. It impacts women differently than it impacts men. That adrenaline rush that we get, something happens to a kid, I very much want there to be women there. When we are talking about guarding the life of President Donald J. Trump, the fact that there were so many women there is just unbelievable. And I'm going to show you, by the way.
Yeah, you heard it right the first time. She said the fact there were so many women there is troubling. Well, she's bothered about that. Wonder why she's bothered.
The director of Secret Service, Kim Cheadle, where her priorities were. You're not going to believe this, you guys. DEI. Yeah, she wanted to make sure, as the new director of Secret Service, that we were being diverse, equitable, and inclusive enough going forward. I'm going to show you this clip, and then we're going to probably have to cut to Joe Biden's remarks. Take a look at this.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030 and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very
We're a
conscious,
joke.
As I sit in this chair now, of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
That workforce will be pivotal for the 2024 campaign season, which for the first time includes a former president who already has lifetime protection. Agents were there when Donald Trump was arraigned in New York.
We were able to work out the details ahead of time of how that particular day was going to go, but we will always ensure the safety of all of our protectees that we have.
The service has a zero-fail mission, a mission officers are training to uphold, pretending this field is the most famous address in America.
Okay, we can get out of this. We can get out of this, guys. I mean, I'm just like, ooh. When I say ooh, guess what? That punch would hurt less than if a man had done it. You want to know why? Because I'm a woman. I don't mind these women in roles if they're organizing the security apparatus. I think women are very good at organizing. We are naturally more organized, okay? I think that women do better when it comes to multitasking.
Oh, okay. For all of you I love Candace Owens people, by the way, she couldn't help but show you that feminist side for those of you who don't know. Yeah, when you talk about these so-called right-wingers and trad-con females and whatnot sitting up here running that game on you because you're a little too slow to realize that this is a game. She running game on you and this is for money and clicks and views. That, by the way, her and Tommy Lauren and the rest of your females on Fox News, they have no problem executing feminism on you and telling you what women are better at. So she invents that when all of a sudden men are better in logical and logistics. And then she puts in multitasking. Excuse me, the logical, logistical minded people would be better at that too. So you're kind of just fabricating that out of thin air. Women are probably better at nurturing than men are. Now you can say that one probably, but a multitasking? Okay, now you're just making things up freestyling. But for those of you who didn't know, she's running game on you. Yeah, just that quickly she inserted. By the way, women are better than men at certain things. Remember, that's going to come back to bite you. Just like Tommy Lauren and the rest, Yeah, she's leaving that in there to let you know, by the way, at some point we're going to come back to bite you with it.
Just one example. That's why there's the expression, if you want to get something done, hand it to a busy mom.
What? Boy, what in the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah, y'all thought I was just making that up right there. No, she just sat there and said it to you.
I think women are very good at organizing. We are naturally more organized, okay? I think that women do better when it comes to multitasking, as just one example. That's why there's the expression, if you want to get something done, hand it to a busy mom.
Okay, all you fellas out there falling for Candace Owens' right-wing little old propaganda show that she puts on. For everybody who's falling for that charade is you men. That's right. She's going to tell all the traditional women. Okay. Why, she's a strong, submissive woman. Nothing wrong with being a submissive female. Oh, did that sound submissive to you? For those of you falling for that little right-wing traditional female con job. I love me some Candace Owens. All right, dumbass. Okay, there you go.
I think women are very good at organizing. We are naturally more organized, okay? I think that women do better when it comes to multitasking, as just one example. That's why there's the expression, if you want to get something done, hand it to a busy mom. Do you know what we're not good at? Being under pressure in situations that are life or death, okay? That is not our natural proclivity. Now, if a kid's there, I've seen some incredible things. But when it comes to this sort of an operation, you're trying to strive to have majority women? Who do you think could win in a fight?
Okay, first of all, they didn't say majority women. So remember, if you have to lie to make a point, that tells you something. The woman said, they clearly said 30%. They want to have majority women? So just understand this. If you listen to this stuff, you're not really trying to get in touch with the realities. Just all political. So she has no problem lying to your face. But then again, the folks who actually listen to her and take her seriously, they're not listening. They're just, the whole thing is hate, hate, hate. Here we go. Hate, hate, hate. All right. But you know, I couldn't help but notice something. I couldn't help but notice something when Candace Owens said that. When I listened to Ben Shapiro, I couldn't help but notice.
Context about the House Republican investigation already underway into whether the agency's DEI policies are affecting its readiness. The blowback against the Secret Service started within the hour of the assassination attempt and continued even after Trump and others credited the agency with saving Trump's life by quickly killing a shooter crawling across a nearby rooftop. But a source within the Secret Service community tells Real Clear Politics the agency rules of engagement in the situation are to wait until the president is fired upon to return fire. You want to take a shot, then find out the guy was holding a telescope, the source suggested? The Secret Service is by nature reactive, and you better be right when you do react or you're effed. So first of all, that protocol should probably change. If you are foolish enough to go up top of a roof and bring a telescope, then Secret Service has to do its job. It has to take preventative measures. The Secret Service protocol requires a counter sniper aware of a potential shooter to radio directly to Intel Division team to respond and investigate. In this case, the investigation may have been cut short by the shooter firing his weapon, so the counter sniper then fired as quickly as possible in return. The source praised the counter sniper who acquired the target and responded within 3 seconds, calling their performance incredible. The counter snipers are highly trained and extremely accurate. However, that is the answer as to why the shots went off first. The real question is, why in the world was this person on the roof of an adjacent building with a rifle? So here.
That's a very good question. I wonder who made the call that day, because Ben, Candace, and nobody else points it out. So if it was a white guy who was in charge of setting up the perimeter and deciding what had to be cleared and what didn't, are Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens going to come back and say, you know, the problem isn't DEI, the problem is white, WHITE? Are they going to come back and say that, or are they just going to sink into the background and be quiet?
There's video that has emerged of Trump rallygoers shouting that they see the shooter moments before the shooting.
So don't expect Ben to come back here and actually give you some details about that. He's definitely going to be very, very sparse on details, because that doesn't really serve his interests. Now, I bring that. Now, this is going to be a little bit extended here. I'm going to play a little bit more, but this is going to be a little bit extended because I want you to get the full context of this. So please bear with me. There's a reason why I want you all to see this.
For him are people who are shorter and smaller than President Trump, which is a disaster area. I travel with private security. I am not President Trump. I get the nation of President Trump. Many of the people who are attempting to jump on him and cover him are people who are shorter and smaller than President Trump, which is a disaster area. I travel with private security. I am not President Trump. I get some threats. I am not President Trump. My security, they are bigger and stronger than I am. That's why they're security. If you can't shield President Trump with your body, what are you even doing in this job? This particular video has gone viral, as well it should. It is video of President Trump climbing into his travel vehicle here. And as you'll see, there are two Secret Service agents standing by the car. Both of them are female. Both of them do not look like they are in particularly good shape. One of them is fumbling around to reholster her weapon, as though she doesn't know how to reholster a weapon. It looks like something out of Reno 911. It's pathetic. Here is some of the footage. Here she is. She's trying to figure out what to do. She reaches in. She's trying to reholster her weapon. She can't find the holster. She's not sure. This, of course,
he's grossly exaggerating about that, but there's a few points to make.
Is raising some fairly serious questions about what in the hell is Secret Service staffing? How in the hell are they staffing this thing?
Okay, let me go back and deal with this a moment here. Now, you just heard Ben sit up here and say there were two women there. Neither one of them looks like they're in particularly good shape.
So she doesn't know how to reholster a weapon. It looks like something out of Reno 911. It's pathetic. Here's some of the footage.
Now, here's the issue here. Here's the issue. For those of you who don't know, everybody on the Secret Service is wearing body armor. Everybody is wearing bulletproof vests. They get specially tailored shirts and specially tailored clothes to go over it like John Wick. But for those of you who didn't know, these women aren't sitting there with their cross your heart Playtex bras on. That's not what's going on. So for Ben Shapiro and the rest of soy society who just say things without knowing, A, knowing, or B, thinking, the women are not just, they don't look particularly in good shape. Yeah, they probably do look a little puffy because that's their vests that they're wearing. Just like the men. That's what they're wearing. In the chat room, you'd be unable to tell if they were overweight unless you get both of you in your underwear. I'm not really sure you would want that to happen either. By the way, I don't think you'd want to have to compare yourself and your underwear to them because, I wonder what they could do in a fist fight with you. So you're making all kinds of assertions from long distance video. And this is what I mean. In the modern era, people just say things. You don't know them. You're not close enough. You didn't see anything that shows you that. I just explained to you that you have no knowledge of it. But by the way, they're sitting up here, and if you're going to try to say that, you do understand that they're wearing body armor, right? You do understand that, don't you? I understand. The crack babies are going to try to do a BMI analysis with their bare naked eyes from grainy video. That's your first clue that you shouldn't be doing that. You know? That's your first clue. Your first clue is, by the way, you're trying to do a naked BMI analysis. Do you see how silly you sound? Do you see how dumb you sound? Like, no, of course you don't, but of course you. People who can't balance their checkbook, people who don't go to the gym themselves are telling you, by the way, I can analyze them. They look to me to be overweight to me from here. Okay. Just understand, on the internet, your drunk uncle, your crackhead auntie, your drug addicted cousin. She can get in there and just type away the keyboard, and it's just away you go. So, yeah.
Here she is. She's trying to figure out what to do. She reaches in. She's trying to reholster her weapon. She can't find the holster. She's not sure. This, of course, is raising some fairly serious questions about what in the hell is Secret Service staffing? How in the hell are they staffing this thing? Well, perhaps one of the explanations for how you end up with Secret Service agents who don't know how to reholster a weapon is the fact that they have been actively attempting to DEI the entire Secret Service. And it turns out when you lower standards in order to achieve particular quotas, the quality goes down. There's a damn shock. This is Secret Service head Kimberly Cheadle explaining to CBS News not all that long ago that her goal was a 30% Secret Service agency. Your goal should be protecting people like President Trump. You don't have that many of them.
To expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
I'm sorry, that is not the goal of the Secret Service. And once again, the peculiar oddity of diversity, equity, and inclusion, in which it matters more who does the job than how well they do it, has consequences.
Very interesting there. So Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens both are running the same news story about the Secret Service. So I'm glad to see that Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens have starting to get along with each other. I'm so glad to see that. So I wanted you all to see the whole thing play out there so that you could see that. Just wanted to go ahead and show that to you. That, by the way, yeah, there you go. Yeah, the two of them doing that. Now, just to put this in perspective, you just heard Ben Shapiro and some of you ADHD kids in the chat room doing your best to overcome your lead pipe affliction from all the lead water you drank as children. And then, by the way, we didn't make those things up here. Wasn't this the gentleman that you were sitting there? We were talking about this before. Wasn't he sitting there telling you that, by the way, yeah, him and Eric Trump, yeah, they know the woman in particular who was closest to Trump here. Yeah, remember I said, by the way, you'll want to remember this. Remember I said you'll want to remember this.
To the right in the picture there right now, whenever he was one of Eric's, and said that she's absolutely phenomenal, as well as for the fact that.
Oh, okay. Yes, some of the lead pipe babies. Wait a minute now. I can spot BMI. Okay, you can't spot your minimum wage, but all right.
Strongly one about the excellent job that the Secret Service has done. One of the females that was actually corralling around the president to try and get him was actually on his detail whenever he was one of Eric's, and said that she's absolutely phenomenal, as well as for the fact that the gentleman that's just to the right in the picture there right now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Some folks are sitting up here. Do you see their chins? I'm like, okay. All right. So, like I say, on the internet, this is the reason why I'm doing this program tonight, because on the internet, people aren't afraid to talk silly and talk dumb because they're not in charge of anything and they think they won't be held accountable for it. But by the way, sounding silly is the real part of it. That's why I told you all, remember this part. We'll come back to it later. Yeah, which is in direct conflict with what Ben Shapiro and some of the folks in the chat room who the slow bus left them on the street corner this morning. Yeah, it's in direct conflict. Direct conflict. Ronda Rousey has a round face too, by the way. I hate to tell you, but she's probably, a lot of you chicks there, I'd hate to see you try to tussle with her, you're untrained. So, yeah, your idea that might not about being out of shape might not match up to reality. It sounds great in the chat room somewhere, but By the way, reality has an ugly way of rearing its ugly head. Has a terrible way of doing that. So, yeah, you trying to eyeball fitness things. Okay. The internet doesn't mind looking silly. We understand that. The breakage was not limited strictly to videos. It wasn't limited strictly to the right wingers. It wasn't limited strictly to that. There were a bunch of other folks out there who looking silly didn't matter to them. I want to go ahead and catch you all up here real briefly. As you can see, they reported that they found bomb-making material. So they found the shooter's house. They found bomb-making material. Donald Trump is playing this very smartly politically. He's playing it very smartly. He's going straight to unity. We need unity. We need to all get together. We will fear not. I mean, Donald Trump is doing the exact opposite of what people would have suspected. You would have suspected he would be out there talking trash and beating his chest. He's sitting up here talking as soft and unified as you can possibly believe. So let me get this straight. Joe Biden flubs the debate. Donald Trump goes silent and lets him stew. You thought that Trump was going to be out there beating his chest, talking about, look at old Joe, he's fumbling around. Trump went silent and let the media run wild on him. The exact opposite of what you thought would occur. Now, he's gotten shot and you figure he'd come back. The problems of left-wingers and you think he'd be throwing bombs and he's saying, we all need to come together. Don't be afraid. We need to unify this country. I mean, he's doing the exact opposite of what people would instinctively think he would do. That's incredibly smart politically. Could it be that Donald Trump has suckered people in all this time to make you think he's going to go right when he goes left? You just know what he's going to do now. And he's going in a different direction. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's supporters sound like a bunch of whacked out lunatics. It's really, really nutty. Donna Brazile, I mean, she is terrified right now. Steve Schmidt, who they usually have on MSNBC, they love having him up there until now. The political consequences of this assassination attempt will be immense, and they will benefit Donald Trump, who just responded to being shot in the exact same way Teddy Roosevelt did. Now, you have some idiots talking about Teddy Roosevelt lost the election. Okay, you missed the plot. Donna Brazile talking about, stop! Do not cause more harm. You should delete this now. I mean, the desperation is tangible at this point. The desperation is tangible. I would say they're panicking. It's beyond panicking. It's beyond panicking. But there are some other elements to this as well. There are some other elements. Because the reason why I'm talking about tonight's program here, that it is fact versus fiction, that's all very important. Because the problem is the internet isn't really encouraging people to be intelligent, and it's not really encouraging people to be adults and take, a leadership role in their own lives, much less society. And that's how you end up with individuals like Amanda Seales. Amanda Seales, who we all know is like, what's his name? Orlando Brown. She has tremendous emotional issues, and I'm being kind. She's got tremendous emotional issues, mental health issues. Amanda needs to be strapped to a bed with an IV of lithium. But she decided, much like Donald Trump used to during his first term, that she's immediately going to go to the internet and post a video that she's so proud of she had to take down. She went off and, well, hear what she had to say for yourself.
That shit was more staged than a Tyler Perry production of Medea Runs for President. I lived in Harlem long enough to know that gunshots do not sound like making popcorn on the stove.
What? People. This is what I'm saying. Some of the ADHD kids, they look out of shape to me. That doesn't sound like gunshots. That sounds like popcorn. You do understand that those are microphones that are a distance away from where the shots are taking place, right? In the case of the shooter, it's a couple of 100 yards away. And she's telling you all that the little microphone on top of the cameras, that doesn't sound like Hollywood. That doesn't sound like a shooting next door. No, the sniper is hundreds of yards away. Sounds like popcorn to me. To my ears, I heard the audio clearly from the television, and it sounds like popcorn to me. Folks are literally telling you that doesn't sound like the gunshots next door because the guy 200 yards away with the microphone on top of a camera, and this isn't Hollywood. Really? Really? Okay.
In Harlem long enough to know that gunshots do not sound like making popcorn on the stove. Pop, pop, pop. Where'd the blood come from? So in theater, in movies, they have what's called blood pellets. They even, a lot of people use them in Halloween. It's basically like a pellet of fake blood that's in your mouth, and when you crush it, the blood comes out. To be frank, Small Hands Trump would not respond by raising his fist in the air triumphantly were an actual attempt made on his life. This was, I believe, done to try to show his strength counter to Biden's fragility. Oh my God. Molly, you in danger, girl. Show his strength.
Yeah, Molly. Whoever gave her the mollies, yes, you're in danger. Let me go ahead and deal with this part right here. This was, I believe, done to try to show his strength counter to Biden's fragility. Ma'am, Donald Trump, it doesn't need to do anything to make Joe Biden look fragile. Joe Biden is doing that all by himself every time he gets in front of a microphone, every time he attempts to walk, every time he attempts to speak, every time he attempts to bend over and pick up something. He's the one showing his fragility. Trump doesn't even have to say anything. Let me explain to you all, if you want to be a competent political operative, you can't be stupid. You can be crazy, but you can't be stupid. Amanda Seals is what happens when stupid people attempt to do the incredible and try to think. Rather than her do what she needs to, which is sit at home, preferably in a closet somewhere, and take her meds, as opposed to self-medicating with opioids or whatever else she's getting high on, she's instead trying to sit up here and give an analysis, which, by the way, she's taken down. So this is yet another reason. First of all, I want to say light-skinned stuff. That's the first thing I want to say, but I'm not going to do that. But it does apply. But the next thing is, this is what happens when crazy and dumb attempts to say things, because here's the issue. She knows saying stupid stuff, she's not going to be held accountable. Who's going to hold her accountable for saying stupid things? She's not running for office. She isn't going to be questioned by the media about it. If she gets another role, please God, don't. But if she gets another role somewhere, will this be a factor? You can say absolutely idiotic things. She doesn't have to be correct. She doesn't have to be accurate. She can be a complete buffoon because she's not taken seriously. Well, that may be okay for Amanda Seals, but that's not okay for the rest of you. That's not okay for the rest of us. You can't just go off and believe any old silliness and stupidity. The first thing you saw was clowns and morons of every stripe sitting up here posting. That's fake, that's staged. And what I'm saying is that right there, first of all, you all think that you're helping Joe Biden. All you're really doing is showing the world that Biden's party is filled with immature, juvenile delinquents and mentally and emotionally imbalanced baboons. That's all you're doing. That doesn't sound adult. This is a time for you to be sounding like the most mature adult people in the room. And you're not. You sound stupid. You sound like Alex Jones. And folk were sitting up there clapping for him like baby seals. Ooh, that's right, Alex. Saying all that garbage, and it was all fun and games right until Alex got his ass dragged into a courtroom. And then next thing you know, all the folks out there trying to defend him and sharing his garbage and everything else, all of a sudden, overnight, you all got quiet. Nobody's helping him to pay those bills. Nobody's helping him to pay that judgment. Nobody ran in the courtroom talking, they crisis actors. All of a sudden, they all got quiet. There's the real issue with being stupid. That you have not embraced manhood or adulthood or womanhood, so you say dumb things when we need for you to be the most adult. So you sit up here and strap on your skinny jeans or your Spanx, if you can squeeze into it. And then you go take to the internet on your Obama phone. And then you just say a bunch of nonsense of which you won't be responsible and won't be accountable, saying complete idiocy and lunacy. Why on earth would Trump need to stage something like this? That doesn't help him. Why would you need to do that? Who killed the guy on the roof? Ain't nobody dead on that roof. Okay, are you like the Alex Jones? So let me guess. This Negro is Leroy Jones. Alex Jenkins. So you're not Alex Jones, you Alex Jenkins. All right. That is the problem, Jaden. You do not understand that in this super complicated world right here, there are fake bullets, there is fake news. You know, if it's that easy to stage things, why don't you stage your upper middle class income? What? How about that? The real issue here is that your butt hurt because your candidate is flopping and floundering in front of your eyes and you can't save him. And rather than you admit, hey, he's fundamentally flawed and broken, you're responding like a bunch of dumb hoes and children. Folks, you need to be able to spot and identify something called objective reality. 1 + 1 needs to equal 2. Hearing Terrence Howard say his buffoonery is entertaining, you're not supposed to sign on for that. You want to know what the biggest obstacle to reparations is? People who live in a fantasy world where rather than adding anything up, they're telling themselves, I don't see how that applied to me. We need to just stick with the way things is going on one side. And then Brother Ahmed Abdul Muhammad Aziz bin Jafar Feliz, and I believe that we should have reparations for the next 100 million trillion years by the lunar calendar and the alignment of the stars on the Copernican map. Rather than us having competent, sober adults taking a look at things, people living in a fantasy realm where they think their ability to say garbage is actually a meaningful contribution to a conversation. And it sounds ridiculous. And if something happens to you, are those crisis actors? You've been listening to idiocy. These are the same folks who were listening to Alex Jones the whole time. Then he comes out going full white supremacist and you still sitting there repeating him. At what point do you grow up and wake up? But then again, I guess on the other hand, how can that be done, especially when you got other folks out here saying stupid things as well over there on the right? So you live in a facts-neutral era where people just say stupid things, impossible things, improbable things, unrealistic things, idiotic things, to see how many people are going to go along with it and agree. And they won't stand by it. Let's be clear, the only reason they're all talking garbage is because nobody's dragging them into a courtroom and forcing them to prove what they're saying. Nobody's doing that. Or at least they're betting that no one will. And that's silliness of the modern era. If you're sitting around telling yourself, I'm going to say stupid things, and unless somebody drags me into court, that's not strategic. That isn't anything you follow. That's the height of stupidity. You want to know why your black legal class is useless? I said it. Because most of them are very good for spinning conspiracy theories and talking about some fantasy island of ancient Kemet. And I'm like, okay, what about the book in front of you? Can you recite that one? Not really. Not really. However, in the chat room, Ahmad Rashard, what a name. So glad we got that right there. I'm so glad that you volunteered for that. So glad you volunteered for that because, yes, indeed, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Black Channel, the Black Media, and myself. Everyone here who has been instructed that they'll need to call in when the phone lines open to give us their insight and their wisdom, congratulations. You just got promoted. So absolutely here, we are definitely going to get your insights. As a matter of fact, we're going to insist on it. So you are going to go ahead and give us a call. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. And if you've been instructed by either me or my mods to call in, we look forward to hearing from you. Or go ahead and you can take the fast track to prove me right on that one, by the way, which is really the best thing to do when you think about it. But yeah, by the way, as soon as they have an opportunity to explain it, see if things get real quiet all of a sudden. Because you can bull jive your way through life when you're talking to your mom when she's using your social security number to go steal cable and ruin your credit at the ripe old age of 7 years old. And it's easy to talk garbage when you don't actually have to substantiate anything, but I would love for folks to sit up here and explain to people in simple English, as they've heard from me, of exactly how that matches up. In the meantime here, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Thank you very much here to Mr. Addison, Ronnie Hunter, all of the other folks who have contributed here tonight. So we've opened up the phone lines here. We are going to go ahead and take a brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, we'll be taking your phone calls and more. This is the Black Channel.
Hello, my name is Steve Burgess. I'm the author of this book, Guidelines for the Successful Student, a closer look at parenting your school-aged child. In this book, I've explained the role of the parent and the student in addition to what accommodations, procedures, rewards and consequences and expectations that need to be in place to ensure student success from primary to high school. This book is available on Amazon.com. For more information, please visit my link tree at Easy One-on-One. And to access my latest podcast, A Teaching Moment with Mr. B. Thank you all for listening.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black first. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spiritOf1811publishing.com and show your love.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slavery and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to have you all with us here this evening. We're talking about fact versus fiction. And this is an especially perilous area for people to go into here because as I've spent over a decade talking about here, I started the Black Channel because we have been devoid of actual, actionable, reliable, accurate information. Whether it's your uncle trying to give you financial advice or your auntie trying to give you family advice, there's a number of different areas where it just doesn't work. That's problematic. There's a number of different areas where that just doesn't work. And that's a problem because of all the folks who need to make sure that everybody is on point and everyone is on their square. We are at the top of that list. You can't have a people who are run by fantasy island and daydreamers and conspiracy theorists who just spend their days making up and stringing out and fabricating things, making the assumption that they'll not be held accountable or questioned or asked anything. That's problematic. That's a sickness. That's an illness when you have that going on. When you have folks who say, I'm going to say things and I have absolutely no expectation that anything is going to occur, that becomes problematic. We need to have the best and brightest and the smartest people. We need to have the most up-to-date information. We need to have that. That's what we need to have. We don't need to have folks sitting up here and repeating something else and a whole bunch of bad information, and then it breaks down to, ain't no money, ain't no currency. And the guy who told us that the United States is going to go bankrupt in 4 months. So why does he have to get his life together? Because, the world's going to blow up in 4 months. And I'm like, okay, they've been saying that now for 40 years. If you listen to that guy 40 years ago, you're living in a cardboard box under the freeway is where you're at. You're living in a cardboard box. The Eddie Winslow way of approaching life is not smart. Don't tell me somebody's going to help them to get lucky here. I've got more than one way to skin a kitten. Okay. I'm going to check on the phone lines here in just a moment. I'll see if I can check on that in just a moment. In the meantime, if you are having trouble with the phone lines, I'm going to go ahead and post the Zoom link here tonight. We got a bunch of folks here in the chat room here tonight as well. So if you all agree with tonight's program, give me the thumbs up in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. It's over 7,000 people in here live. And I definitely want you to have an opportunity to go ahead and weigh in on that as well. If you're having trouble getting through on the phone lines, I'm going to go ahead and post the Zoom link for you. So even if you don't even have phone service, there won't be an excuse for that. All you have to do is just tell the moderators what your name is on Zoom, and we'll go ahead and let you do that instead if you're having trouble with that. We're talking tonight about the essential nature of fact versus fiction. People who are easily fooled, people who are easily misled, people who cannot distinguish a real event from a fake one. And the folks talking about fake things, they've never pulled off a fake event before, but all of a sudden the internet becomes filled with experts in what's real and what isn't. People who haven't created a real $1,000 in their pocket suddenly become experts in what's real otherwise for everybody else. All of a sudden they know best and they know everything for everybody else. Just not for themselves, not in their personal lives. Well, if somebody's going to pretend that they know that, shouldn't they have something to show for it? And as people, you shouldn't get distracted by that either. You shouldn't be distracted by that either. One of the reasons why you have folk who sit up here, and let me go ahead and pin that to the top of the chat room there for you. That might have gotten away from you. Let me go ahead and pin that to the top of the chat room. But one of the issues right there, if you want to know people who are very easily misled, if I can sit up here and convince you of some of the garbage that Alex Jones has been saying now for 25 years, I can convince you of anything. If you're very easily misled, I can convince you of anything. Folks who didn't pass in physics class, what are we doing? Let me go ahead and check in over here on Zoom. Okay, we got Robert on Zoom. What's on your mind, Robert?
Not too much, man. Good to be on the line with you. What I've been kind of experiencing with this general Black issues where I'm from in Milwaukee, Wisconsin is I think a lot of us suffer from like a Stockholm syndrome. It's not like we don't care about what's going on. We just don't care enough to know enough, and not enough of us care to know enough. Like my city's getting gentrified. We all know what gentrification is, but they will all, especially like a lot of my family, they will all rather kind of like act like it's just going to go away or it's going to pass on. I feel like we want to be more directed than actually go into a direction. That's really all I had to say.
Well, I mean, I think that's another avenue of it right there is that people, when they're powerless, they start resorting to fantasy. They're particularly susceptible to fantasy. Yeah, because they don't have any power in the real world. So everything is unreal. No wonder they get strung out on drugs and drinking. Everything is unreal, and they need it to be unreal because they need to be able to explain why it is they haven't gotten anything done. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. In the chat room, y'all, somebody's ex-Franklin talking about how the media have footage of the guy on the roof. Folks, it's the year 2020. Somebody should explain to him. It's the year 2024. Americans who don't have shoes have a cell phone. And every cell phone has a camera on it. This guy is literally in the chat room talking, how the media have footage of the guy on the roof. There's cell phones everywhere. Everywhere. Folks, this is literally what's happening in my chat room right now. He's literally saying, how they get footage of how did TMZ find us footage of the fellow on the roof? There's cameras everywhere today. Everywhere. Breaking news! iPhone, nigga! Breaking news! Nuh-uh, for real? Amaruki Nation needs to go ahead and give us a call up here, by the way. Let me go ahead and see here on Zoom. We got Yuda. I'm waiting to see if he can connect his audio there. We're waiting on you, sir.
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Okay, sir. So you can go ahead and explain to us what it is we don't actually understand.
Actually, you was asking me what I was laughing at, and I said I don't believe the angles that they were talking about. But then you had the guy, you played the interview, and the guy explained it. So I'm good, really.
Okay, you said that after I played this interview, sir.
Yes, sir. Because the story wasn't making sense to me, Jason. And also, I want to know your thoughts on the presidential protection protocols that were followed.
Short answer. First of all, you said that after you heard the guy say that. I don't understand what part you didn't. All of a sudden, I told him to call it. He's like, "Oh, I get it now." I'm like, "I don't understand. What part did you not understand?"
No, I didn't. I thought that the distance was longer, but it was closer when you played the interview. So I get it now.
Okay. But you heard the distance and then said that don't sound right. Yeah, I need you to call in.
Yeah.
It sounds great now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the velocity wasn't making sense, and then one of the other chatters put in what kind of rifle it was, so it checked out.
What did you think it was?
They weren't saying from what I was looking at.
Okay, some of y'all might think that bullets can only make it about 30 feet before it hits you. No, they can travel dozens of yards per second, so it's...
No, Jason, I was thinking like more of like a higher caliber, like his face should be missing, not just a couple blood drizzles behind his ear. You know what I mean?
Okay, it wasn't a couple of blood drizzles. Okay, now that right there, that's not cool. I am no friend of Donald Trump, but a couple of blood drizzles behind his ear? I don't understand. Why would you say that? Did you not see the pictures of him? I mean, why would you say that?
That's how it looked from what I seen, brother.
Okay.
Like I've seen people get their head blown off before, and that's a couple drizzles compared to that. That's what I mean, Jason.
Okay, where do you think he got hit at, sir?
Wasn't it over near his temple or behind the ear somewhere? It was a graze.
Yeah.
They told us it was a graze.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you literally haven't seen a single picture of the man yet. You haven't looked at a single picture, not even one.
Yeah, I did have, but it didn't look like.
Okay, if you saw that, then you did not see a couple of drops, man. That's what I'm saying. If you all are trying to make some sort of point or, establish credibility or something, this is the way you go in the other direction. You all make yourselves look dishonest at best and crazy at worst. If you saw those pictures, to even say those words, a couple of drops of blood. I mean, either you're trolling or y'all have real mental, emotional dishonesty issues. And I'm serious. You shouldn't even say things like that. That doesn't.
I'm not trolling.
That doesn't help anything.
Maybe I'm miscommunicating at best, but I'm not trolling you, brother. I'm B1, 100%.
I mean, that just really, I don't understand why folks would even say something like that. If you saw a single picture of him, then you know that's simply not, there's no way you can make that statement. If you even looked at a single picture, there wasn't a couple of drops of blood. That was literally not what you saw. If you looked at a single picture, not 5 or 6, if you looked at even one. And I'm just like, wow, that's just really bizarre that you all would say that. And understand, I got no dog in the fight except to objective reality. That's real bizarre to say things like that.
No, I get it, brother. I was waiting for your concise breakdown of it anyway, because I was iffy on that velocity and all that.
Because here's my thing. I want you all to understand, if this is why eyewitness testimony is the most unreliable testimony there is. And if something happened where we needed you all to be paying attention, it's like, okay, this is what we got?
Yeah, I get it.
We need you all to be sensible and not silly and paying attention. This is what we have?
Yes, sir. You're the man, Jason. I concede.
Okay. I just want y'all to understand that part of it's not funny. You need real sensible adults out here. That's what I'm talking about. We need folks who are really sensible adults in the real world, and literally that's what we got going on. Literally. I just saw a couple drops of blood. I'm like, then you literally did not take a look at a single picture. Didn't he get shot in the temple or something? Okay. Yeah, there's nothing funny about it. This is why you need adults. That's not funny. There's nothing funny about immaturity and being outrageously uninformed, but talking, that's not funny. Let's go ahead and see if we can talk to Carrie here. Carrie, what's on your mind?
How you doing, Jason? Great broadcast. B1. I just want to say, like, I'm an avid shooter. What you hear when the people are like, oh, it sounds like popcorn. No, that's the pop of the projectile breaking the sound barrier. Microphones have clips when you go too high and it shuts the sound off. So that's why it sounds like it's popping like that, because the microphones are being cut due to how much sound is hitting at once. Also, people are saying like, oh, his whole face should be blown off. That is not true. These are 223, 5.56 are .22 caliber ammunition. That's like as big as a pin, like the pinhead, or as big as your pinky, your nail. So that a projectile going that quick, breaking the sound barrier, will pass through. AR platform ammo, 223, 5.56, are meant to go through. That's why we don't deal with the AK-47 rounds, 7.62 by 39s and stuff like that, because we want to wound and bleed out. That's why the military uses those types of rounds. If I can wound you, then you have to get your partner. Then I can shoot your partner at the same time. I took out 2 people trying to rescue somebody. So people watch too much TV. This ain't Boys in the Hood when people are walking around with 50 cal handguns and stuff like that. Only time things are getting blown off is when you're getting into 30 caliber rounds or 50 caliber rounds out of rifles as big as people. Like, people got to stop watching too much TV. That bullets don't work like that. So yeah.
First of all, the real thing is that, when you take a look at the original video, we played that last night. You all can go check that out if you want to. It's everywhere. But Trump was gesticulating, so he was moving around, and at the last second there, when that thing hit him, it cut him across the ear. If he had been standing where he was just a fraction of a second earlier, based on the trajectory of the angle at which the person was shooting, yeah, that would have gone through his ear. It wouldn't have gone through his ear and his head. Instead, he moved, and just like that. So that was very, very close, and that's why I showed you all the thing on CNN, so you could see where the bullet went behind him. And you, as a person who shoots, you can clearly see what was going on there. It's like, yeah, if he had his head turned and a little bit difference, and yeah, that would have done that. However, I'm glad you called, because that's the real issue. The real issue is we don't have fellas who operate in the real world. We don't have a lot of men today who are required to operate in the real world. They don't know what a real gun is, what a real hammer is, what a real nail is, manual labor. Everything is a video game to them. Everything is unreal. So the things you and I are talking about, it's not real. Their only frame of reference is a television show or movies. The real world physics of bullets and how they actually work and what to expect. And that, yeah, it can literally just slice your ear. It can do that if you turn it at an angle. Yeah, it really can do that. No, I wouldn't. Yeah, it would. It didn't bounce off of his head. He turned and sliced his ear a little bit more. If he had kept his head turned the angle it was, it would have smacked. It probably would have smacked through his head. And I think the real issue is you're speaking from a real world perspective of really laying your hands on things and really touching them. And these other folks are not. So I guess the real struggle now is between those of us who operate in the real world versus those whose only contact with the real world is with a computer screen.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think every man, especially black men, we need to go to ranges. We need to know that one dude who got a farm where we can shoot in their backyard so we can know what that report sounds like in your ear when you can hear that ringing and you're going deaf for a good 30 minutes to a minute and you can still operate. I mean, this is why the police and the military, they gas themselves or pepper spray themselves so they can react in real life. And, you know, everybody, we watch all these movies and as soon as, you know, a shell hits the ground in the movie, like that whole bullet you see, that doesn't go flying out the barrel. It's it's a small little piece that comes out. And everybody think, well, once something happens, everybody's just supposed to run screaming. No, people have a fight or flight. Either you're going to freeze up, you're going to fight, or you're
well, I mean, it can be different. It can be different because, for example, in a lot of cases, you don't know you've been shot. Depending on what's happening, you may not even be aware that you've actually been shot. That happens. In Trump's case, what he said was that he felt the wind whiz by him first. So he's like, I heard something and I felt it blow. I felt the wind go by me. And that's when I realized something had happened to me. And he's like, then I started bleeding. I'm like, oh, I've been shot or shot at or something. So in reality, those things are moving so, as you all should know, bullets move so fast, it actually is moving faster than your reaction time. That thing hits you faster than your brain can even register that something is it happens faster than the seconds between which the brain can record events. So you couldn't kill people in the military setting if people could see it coming. It happens so fast you don't have any time to react. Literally one instant you're sitting there talking to your buddy, the next instant you're on your way to the next life. You have no time to react, no time to respond. You literally don't even realize something occurred to you. If you were still alive to tell us the tale, you wouldn't realize anything actually occurred. It happens faster than the brain can work. These are foreign concepts. They're foreign concepts. The other thing here is when somebody says we're going to try to say a couple of drops of blood, first of all, that's insulting our intelligence for what we see in front of us. Second of all, do you know, if I told somebody to make somebody else bleed with their bare hands, they couldn't do it. Most males today couldn't do it. They'd be complaining that their knuckles is hurting. So simple, it sounds simple like that, but in reality, it's way past their pay grade.
Exactly. Let me say one more thing. You know, a lot of these people, especially people who haven't done manual labor or any type of martial arts or anything like real martial arts where you full contact or even stabbed or something like that, it takes effort to break skin. Skin is not easy. Just because you accidentally get a paper cut and you're thinking like that bullet would move so quickly. First of all, for the blood to even come out of his ear, your heart has to beat that blood out of the ear. Blood just doesn't pool in your body. You're not a big bag of blood. Blood circulates with your heartbeat. And so when he gets hit and he puts his hand up, he probably felt or heard, as you said, as Trump said, it wouldn't even have started bleeding when he touched it because your heart still has to beat. And so once your heart starts beating and the adrenaline kicked in, which is the fight or flight, then the blood's going to start flowing. When he drops, because this is an old man also, so when he drops, then his body, the blood flows up, and so the whole point. And then when it starts, and then you see how red that is oxygen-rich blood.
Yeah, very true.
People think like you got to understand it's that red not because it's ketchup or food coloring. It's because your brain has a lot of oxygen in it to function, and your ears by your brain. And so that's why it's that red. But if you cut your foot, it's going to be a darker red. because it's less oxygen down there. And if you cut your finger, it's a different color red than your ear. So if you've never cut different parts of your body, you would have no idea what you're talking about. Stop watching TV and thinking that's real life. People's body parts just don't fly off. We're not that fragile. Anyway, I'll land my plane.
Very good point you make right there. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. It sounds radically different when you actually know something. So he makes a very good point. I mean, that's not a minor thing. That's not an easy thing to do. It's not a minor thing or an easy thing to do. Folks who ain't never busted a grape are trying to tell you how dangerous they are. I mean, it's embarrassing. Let's go ahead and get Christopher here on Zoom. What's on your mind, Christopher?
How you doing, Jay? First time caller.
All right, sir. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to touch on Candace's bit with when she starts talking about the women shouldn't be in that position. I kind of agree with her in that aspect because I lean toward the patriarchal position where I believe us as men should step back into our positions as protectors. So when she started talking about that, and when you kind of went on your disagreement with it, I understood, but I kind of thought that you were feeding a little too much onto, the emotion of that instead of where she was coming from. Trump probably would have been better protected if he had bigger, huskier brothers around him protecting him. And and I'm down here on the field on the margins, and the workforce is predominantly black male. And so it's policy over politics. And so Trump may not be for us, but his policies in terms of, migration, deportation, and all that type of stuff, and keeping money in the country, it at least give black men a better opportunity to accumulate those funds. And so it kind of hits close to home a little bit with us when we see that there's an attempt on his life. The white supremacists don't want us with that anyway, but at least if the money is kept in-house, I mean, the DMC has done nothing but ship billions and trillions out of the country.
Okay.
So
well,
it's policy over politics.
Let me go ahead and address that first thing here. Candace Owens is making a sales pitch, okay? Let's be very, very clear. Remember, this is a woman who sued for racial discrimination. So let's be clear about that. Candace Owens is giving y'all a sales pitch. These are things that they switch to and utilize and leverage when it's to their convenience. And folks don't understand when somebody's selling a product. So the first thing I'm saying is, please don't be deceived, brother, into going for what she's saying hook, line, and sinker. I am not saying that there are certain elements she might actually believe. What I'm saying is that she's much more invested in you swallowing what she's selling than the validity of what she's selling. She wasn't kidding when I want you to understand, the reason why I'm doing this program tonight, and I got kind of taken off of that, I'm glad that you reminded me of it. The reason why I brought this up is because I was warning white women about this a decade ago. I warned them about this a decade ago that this was coming.
Yes.
Those of you who go back to me talking about George Zimmerman.
Right.
When he murdered a black child, Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
And I said during that broadcast that the white women who went along with that, all these cable news pundits sitting up there defending that, I said, when the day comes that these men, because I said, you all have forgotten that the first slaves of European men were their own women. You've forgotten that the first legal property of European men were their own women.
Yeah.
To the extent that when you talk about the right of first refusal,
yes,
your property.
Yeah.
The king being able to sit up and say, I'm sleeping with your daughter tonight because I got the right of first refusal. So bring that broad on over here. She's property.
They were the first goods. Kingdoms would trade their daughters and women for goods.
Oh, if you don't have money, you got daughters. Or
That's right.
hopefully you got daughters. If you don't, you got sons go die. But folks have forgotten that. And I said that with George Zimmerman. I'm like, by the way, to all the white women out there going along with this, please understand.
Yeah.
This starts with a black child, but this will end with you. And what do you know? A decade later, full court press, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, outright saying it straight, no chaser, that, by the way, we need to get these women on out the way. You all need to get back in your place. You need to get out the way. Let the men run this. Well, they're certainly not talking about the black men. They already disqualified us with Ben talking. So they're not talking about black men. They're talking about the white ones. They already told you DEI. Well, DEI eliminates everybody except white males. So when they say DEI, they mean everybody except white males. Oh, okay. So that was the first thing I wanted to say is that, by the way, I wanted to play that for you all from Ben, and my numbers went down, so folks didn't like the white supremacists who tuned in. Oh, but damn, the Negroes are getting on this. Okay, well, that's all right. I have no problem running you off. You thought it was going to be that kind of program. I thought you was a Trump supporter. Okay, clearly you don't read very well nor think very well, so glad to appraise you to the light of day, and we keep it rolling. But I warned them a decade ago that this is where it was going, and now they're using this when they should simply be sticking to the politics and talking about Trump. They're using this to say, by the way, them niggas don't need to be here, and them women don't need to be here either. Now, did y'all see how they turned this and used this? Never let a crisis go to waste. So we need to do an abrupt turnaround. Them Negroes don't need to be here. George Floyd and BLM. And get these women out of here, too. We need to just let the men run it. Okay. Talk about leveraging a crisis to knock 3 birds with 1 stone. Biden, who's supposed to be the regular target, black folk, and broads. BBB. So in any case, there was that. Look, Candace Owens knows she's running a hustle. She knows she's running a hustle. All these so-called black conservatives, the moment that you put a white boot up their ass, then they start talking about they're black. That's what she did when Ben Shapiro started putting it on her. All of a sudden, she started gathering black folk around her. So that's the game that they play. Your job is to not fall for that part of it. As far as the male-female part of it, brother, I played her sitting there telling you, but there are things that women are better at than men. Wait a minute.
Right.
Brother, she just refuted all that traditional conservative female she just told you. She just defeated that. We're better at multitasking. Okay, do you realize that's a loophole?
Yeah.
Anything that you can sit here and say, that's a loophole. Anything you think you're going to say, well, you know, men are better at things. There's things we're better at. If she says she's better at multitasking, she didn't specifically say multitasking. What? She said multitasking. Don't you realize that's her loophole to come back around? That anytime she wants to pull rank on you, now she can.
She said that what if you want to get something done, give it to a busy mother or something like that.
Which that don't make no damn sense. By the way, that makes no damn sense. If you want to get something done, give it to a busy mom. Why is she so damn busy? Wait a minute. If she's so good at getting things done, how she end up so busy? And what do busy moms do, by the way? I want an itemized list. What are you doing right now? So it's like, no. So I want you all to understand. I know emotionally it resonates with you because she's hitting you with the initial pitch, which sounds like women need to be submissive and not challenge men's authority or going to places where they're not qualified for and they're physically not able. That's what she's entering it with. But she wants her preferential treatment.
Definitely.
And she doesn't want to give it up. So how do I tell you that I'm not in charge, but at the same time retain my leverage to still pull rank on you when I need to? So she's just giving you that initial pitch. That back door she left open, I'm telling you, that back door allows in everything that you're saying that she just disqualified. That one allows everything in. That one right there. So I'm saying don't be deceived, fellas. She's selling you something. She's selling you. Because here's the real thing. If she truly believed that, why is she talking? Why isn't her husband out here?
Yeah, they're all off the scene.
Do you know this? You don't never see that? These women allegedly their men are so on point, but she's the only one talking. Her dude ain't never said nothing. If that's the case, why isn't she sitting at home taking care of the family and whatnot? No, she's the loudest, biggest mouth out here. Bruh, she's selling you something.
Do you think Trump's views are traditional, his policies?
I think it's traditional American, certainly traditional American, defined as white and American, white male. It's absolutely traditional. Look, at the end of the day, understand something. You have a factor that vacillates slightly.
Okay.
The real issue is, how do you keep all of the non-white people,
exactly,
and that's us, how do you keep them getting back to work and not causing any trouble? From time to time, you're going to have to kick their ass a little, and every once in a while, you got to kick their ass a lot.
Yeah.
But how do you keep this thing running and keep them in their place? And that's the position and perspective that Trump comes at it from. Oh, yeah, and Biden, too. Oh, yeah, and all the rest of them. That's the position they come at it from. So you've just got folks who are, I covered this in my documentary film, Race War. You've got different people that sit up here and are trying to accomplish the same goal with slightly different means. They're only arguing with each other about how you do it.
Yeah.
No, if you go at them too hard, they'll take to the streets. That's what they're doing. So that's what the white supremacists tell each other. If you go at them black folk too hard, they take to the streets. You need to be more subtle. Well, if you go at them too soft, then they're going to be running things. So do you see, they're fighting with each other about how much the temperature should be, because if you come at this too much, we're going to go upside your head. But if you don't do enough, you can't stay in charge. So they're fighting over tactics.
You remember our brother, Dr. Claude Anderson, told us that they were trying to lock us in a permanent underclass.
Well, I mean, right now we are an underclass, and the real thing is, how do you perpetuate that and maintain that for the next 500 years, especially when your numbers are going down? Now you must transition to a South Africa type strategy, which is what's currently occurring, is a transition to that. But even then, you have to be careful, because we're not the South Africans.
You're talking about apartheid?
Yes. Where you have a small white minority that controls 90% of the wealth and 90% of the country. Well, that's problematic for us, because number one, we're not the South Africans. That's the first problem. We built different.
That's right.
So that's the first issue. Number two, we have a history of turning things up and turning things over. So we don't accept the okie doke as much as folks. So you got to deal with us differently. So the fight over there, once again, is, okay, how do we make that transition in a way in which they don't go full blown in the streets or upside your head, or they get wise to it, because they're constantly watching us. So how do we do this in a slick way that they don't go in full revolt against? That's what the fight, the strategy, everything else is about. That's what all the elections and everything, that's what it's really all about.
Okay, that's all I wanted, big brother. I just wanted to call in and voice it. It was on my mind.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Yeah, like I say, I mean, it seems, just understand what they're really fighting over. They're really fighting over who's going to run it, who's got the best strategy for keeping us subdued. That's all it's really about. It's really about that. All right, let me go ahead and check and see if I got Agnes here. All right, Agnes, what's on your mind?
Hi.
Hello, Agnes. Is this the Agnes?
Hello?
She might have a delay there. Agnes, are you hearing us?
Yes.
Okay.
How are you?
Is this the Agnes from Seattle?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, she's a real person. All right. Now you know how it feels to be me. Folks don't believe you exist until they bump into you or run into you somewhere. So, all right, Agnes, well, welcome to the Black Channel. What's on your mind?
Hi. I just wanted to weigh in on some of Candace's sales pitch. I remember you were talking about earlier in the year, these people are jockeying for position for relevancy. And that's how I looked at it. When she's trying to present this DEI position, which we know is false, she's trying to do a little bit of gender warring. And as you pointed out, if she's supposed to be taking on this traditional female role, then why isn't she taking care of the kids? Okay, so we know she's, first of all, punch drunk, doesn't even know what she's talking about or even why she's trying to sell a point. Second of all, it's easy to see right through what she's doing. But most importantly, when she's talking about these Secret Service people and she's trying to chime in with what Ben Soipiro is talking about, first of all, she doesn't want to accept the fact that these are Secret Service people who've had training. These are well qualified people. And so, like you brought up earlier, they're trying to get the women, the white women, up out of the paint completely. And that's not what Candace is thinking about. Unfortunately, she thinks she's a white woman too and doesn't think it's going to happen to her. But you can look at it and see, Candace, you really are that kind of clueless. And that's all I really wanted to talk about.
Well, let me go ahead and address what you just said there. You made a statement that Candace thinks she's a white woman too. I would make a dispute to that. Candace doesn't think she's white. She thinks she's better than white. Candace thinks she is an other. Candace really does believe, truly believe. And why wouldn't she? Take a look at what social media has fed her. She believes she's better than them. She believes that's why she teaches that colorblind thing to the extent that she does, although she certainly sees color when she looks at black folk, now doesn't she? But she only pushes that line because it's to her advantage. But at no point do you really see her identifying as anything. And I would suggest to you that she's maneuvered to try to put herself in a position where she's something other. So now I'm better than white, actually, or better than white women. I'm better than them. All right, let's go back to what you said there. You made a number of points I want to address here. Let's go back to talking about the going along with Ben Shapiro there. Ben Shapiro, why would you sit up there and do that? Well, I mean, hell, that's where the power is, isn't it? So on the one hand, she's pushing the line with them. And on the other hand, she's in position to sit up here and pull rank when she wants to. That'd be the first thing she would do. And you can see very clearly she's going to do that when it is to her convenience. When it's to her convenience, she pushes these things when it's convenient. When it's not, you see her flip on a dime. So in her case, she thinks she's got a privileged position. And when you take a look at what they gas her head up with on social media, you can see why she would believe that. But you and I both know her day is coming. She's already gotten her wake-up call. Her day is coming. And mark my words, when it happens, she's going to attempt to cross back over. When that fails, she's just going to be this weird little leftover chick. And that's what it'll be. I'll let you have the last word.
Well.
I'm sorry. Let me interrupt one more time. Another thing. She would have no problem back in the company line to put these women back where they were because she sees herself as not going with them. Think about that for a few moments. Schindler's List. Yeah, she has no problem telling you all to throw the women under the bus because she has no intention of going back with them. She's listening to y'all throw these other people under the bus. But I won't be going. She's saying, I'm thinking about all these other women. Y'all are going to throw them under the bus, not me. So, yeah, she has no problem saying that. She's like, oh, I'm privileged. I won't be going with you. All right. Now it's all yours.
It's the problem with these airheads who think that they're the smartest thing in the room. They don't read the room. They don't understand that, okay, you're trying to take on this privileged point of view when it's obvious you're not. And then on top of that, the whole I'm ruling over thee and what's good for me is not good for thee. She can't even take that kind of position because she's racially homeless, all right? Once you leave Black, you don't come back. And we won't allow you to come back either. That's all. And thank you. B1.
B1 Sisters, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Well, that was Agnes. All right, let me go ahead and see if I can get the next person up here. Who was that? All right, RJ. Let's see if we can go ahead and get RJ up here. At least we'll see if we can try. We'll give RJ a moment to see if that works. If there's Zimbabwe broadband is coming through there. Okay, RJ, not sure what you were doing or where you went off to there. RJ apparently has been abducted. Let me see if I can get Michael up here. All right, Michael, and what is on your mind? Michael is working on connecting his audio. Check your audio, Michael. It says you're connecting your audio. You're not. Nobody can hear you yet.
Can you hear me now?
All right, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, brother. Okay, yeah, it looks like you're doing the
Am I
old.
there yet?
Yeah, it looks like you're doing the old
Okay.
EPMD
All right.
video
Hey,
there. So
I was just
turn to your right, Michael. Your camera's to your right, isn't it?
hold on. I got to cut off my whatchamacallit.
That's helpful too. Your
There we
camera's,
go.
yeah, your camera's to your right, Michael.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, Michael.
Hello?
Okay, he's
I
punching
can't
one
even
button
hear.
and closing another one. He was doing good there just a moment ago. Okay, yeah, because Michael was doing good there a moment ago, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm in the old EPMD video. We'll give him a chance to go ahead and see if he can get that corrected there. Yeah, Candace thinks she's throwing everybody else under the bus, so she can say that silliness because she thinks she's got a privileged position. So she's like, oh, you're throwing all the other women. You won't be throwing me. You're just throwing all the others. All right, let's go ahead and see. We got RJ. Have you got yourself straightened out, RJ? RJ, turn your microphone on. Okay, folks are trying to figure out how to get their stuff working here for that. So, RJ, if you get a chance to get that together, let me know. Talk about people believing believing fiction versus facts. Candace Owens thinks that she is going to have a privileged position and everybody else is going to go into the bus except her. We all know that's not the way it works. She's a useful tool. As long as she's a useful tool, she'll be employed. As soon as she has outlived her usefulness, she got to go. Candace thinks then that she's going to switch over and come back and hide with us, and that's not what's going to happen. Something else is going to occur. Something else is going to happen. But it won't be that. It'll be something different. But it also shows you how untrustworthy she is now, doesn't it? Think about that for a few moments. Candace Owens is willing to sell women out if it means a privileged position for her. Okay, RJ, go ahead and unmute yourself, RJ. We'll give you 5 seconds here.
How are you?
All right, RJ, what's on your mind?
So, awesome broadcast tonight, Jason. I admire what you're doing. I want to talk about Candace Owens and the description that she made. That description, brother, was just ridiculous. Because, as you mentioned out, this soy men thing, I was like, what is she describing? Because she knows that's a white person, but she won't admit it, that it's a white, because she's been identifying as a white person so long that, of course, she won't, she will cover for them. She will cover for these shoes. But as you mentioned earlier in the broadcast, if it's a black person, a black male, then obviously she will say, oh, this is a dark skin.
Oh, she would call out being black. She would call out black culture. She'd call out black on black crime, BLM. So if it was black people, she would go straight to black because that's her sales pitch and that's what she's selling. So she would sit up here and cater to her audience and pander to her audience. If it was a black person doing all these shootings, it would immediately go to black and black culture. You have a white phenomenon of white males who do this, particularly young white males, and all of a sudden she's deracializing it. All of a sudden it's soy milk. It ain't white milk. What? It's soy milk. All of a sudden. It's just soy milk. And they have the same look. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's the same thing too. You notice they're all white? They all look like they drink soy. They look soft in the Candace, you didn't notice they're all white? Did you miss that? Because you're certainly going to come back and talk about race with black folk here. When it comes to white folk, all of a sudden she doesn't see race when it comes to white folk. So you understand, you can never reconcile or retrain a colonized mind.
Exactly, brother. That's just a plantation mind and just a house slave mind, as Malcolm X will put it. You know, that's a colonizing mentality. B1, brother. B1, everybody in the chat. B1.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. So like I say, definitely she knows what she's doing in that regard. People on the right are trying to use this. People on the left, like I say, just everybody here, you know me, I'm neither right wing nor left wing. I'm black wing. And I ain't talking about Cadillac. But certainly just keep that in mind, folks. You want to stay on the right side of these things. Stay addicted to facts, not fiction. Stay grounded in objective reality. Don't listen to people who can't substantiate anything. Folks sitting up here telling you that nothing is real. And then you go take a look at their bank accounts, take a look at their life accomplishments, and you realize, oh, that's why nothing's real to you, because you don't have the ability to make anything real. You'll notice the folks who are always doing that, they're always childish. They're always immature. They don't actually build anything. They don't substantiate anything. They don't create anything. They don't produce anything. That's who you're going to follow. Dave Chappelle warned you, Twitter is not a real place. You'd be well advised to keep that in mind. There will be more on this to come. The Republican National Convention is this week in, Milwaukee, I think, in Wisconsin. So be aware. We'll be watching that. We'll be monitoring it. More things will be going on. More things will be seen. I think that Trump is going to try to use this He didn't ask for it, but certainly I don't think he's going to come out and beat his chest and say he's bulletproof. I think he's actually going the other direction. I think that he's going to use this as his excuse to be conciliatory. I've also never been more convinced that Marco Rubio is about to be his running mate. If he keeps going in this conciliatory direction, I'm like, oh, he's going to pick Rubio. And the Republicans have an excellent shot at running this thing for the next decade like Reagan did to Bush. They have an excellent shot of running this thing for the next decade. And maybe that will wake them up. Maybe that'll wake them up. Maybe if that happens to them for a couple of cycles, that'll wake them up and they'll see things a little bit differently here. Or maybe not. Maybe not. I have a feeling that they're gonna try to hold out one more time. Yes, on your screen, that was the shooter. So for those of you who are not aware, I posted, you need to be following me on Twitter. If you're not following me on Twitter, you need to. But if you take a look at your screen, yeah, that was the shooter. Got a gun from his dad. He got a rifle from his dad. Don't know if he's been practicing, but he got a rifle from his dad, 20 years old, never voted. He's given money to Democrats, but he's registered Republican, but gave money to Democrats. What we do know is that he's young, white, armed, and formerly dangerous. Did he have an ideology? What's going on? Not sure. We do know one thing. It fits the profile as usual, and this is just the one who showed up. Keep your heads on swivel, folks. As black folk, we always have to keep our eyes open. Keep your heads on swivel. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Holidays and some days in between. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Our crowdfunding for 8 a.m. is still open. The official period is closed, but you still have the ability to contribute to it. The link is in the description. So for those of you who are saying if you can contribute after the time frame, yes, I don't know how long it'll stay open. I don't have control of that part. So it's probably going to be open for another week or two, maybe at most. But if you did not, you only have a last chance to go ahead and get in on that. Definitely want to be a part of that as well. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you go and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, referencing this program tonight that will get you up to speed, blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Brenda and everyone else, thank you all for tuning in live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.